Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be a part of the Grad Career Festival today. This segment will look beyond the job search and focus on what happens after the job offer and when you begin your first day of work. Looking beyond the job offer will actually help you to prepare for any upcoming interviews. If you appear to have a strategy for the transition into work life beyond college, your confidence will shine through in an interview and you will be more practiced, more prepared, and look more mature. We will go inside your work life and focus on you fitting in. I will give you some goals and strategies today for advancing your career. We all start as an entry-level employee, but don't want to remain there. So let's talk about how to build upon your career once you get the offer. So today's topics will cover the following main points. Use your academic skills to learn about your company and team members. Be an outstanding team member and learn how to succeed together and be a leader. Set 3-month and 1-year goals to get ahead in your career. But first, a little bit about myself. I have had over 25 years in the for-profit business world, but most importantly, to those entering the workforce, I have had 25 years to make a ton of mistakes and now learn how to avoid them or take corrective measures. I started as a trainee and then worked at various companies along the way and held positions such as analyst, manager, a director, and now a VP. And I also wanted to find a way to give back, so I created a company called Help Someone. About 50% of my staff have been in their 20s, and so I decided to memorialize our interactions in a career book. To round out my experiences and keep myself challenged, I also accepted an offer on the board of directors for a company called the Institute for Market Transformation, a nonprofit organization that promotes energy efficiency to respond to climate change. All of these experiences end up being a good mix to keep me motivated, to keep a learning mentality. And today I challenge you to adopt a continuous learning mentality and never go stale. My hope is that in listening today to this program, you can learn to avoid a few common mistakes of your own by learning from others. But don't feel bad if you do. All of us make mistakes. So let's get into our first tip. When you arrive at work the first day, you'll be wondering, how will I fit in? Am I capable of performing the tasks assigned? And do you like the place and the people? We call this fit. At the same time, your boss is wondering many of the same things and will seek in the first few months to answer them as he gets to know you. There won't be a written test to confirm your skill set, but situations will occur every day, and how you respond will be your test. He or she will want to know if you can make the transition from academia to work life. Are you adaptable to your new surroundings and your office mates? In the interview, the human resources personnel assessed your skills and determined that you had the right training for the job. But a one-page resume doesn't tell an employer much about your personality traits or your adaptive capabilities, so they will quickly determine if you have the right skills for the job while you're on the job. The boss will also want to know if you fit in well to the workplace culture. Do you work easily with others? And can you rise to the challenge of difficult assignments and deadlines? And even if your skills are low and your knowledge base is shallow, are you teachable and show a willingness to learn? So, will you prove to be a good hire? Many employees consider the first 90 days to be a trial, and you will want to pass this test. So how do you show them your desire to perform well and answer his or her questions? It may seem like a lot to focus on, so I call upon the sports world to demonstrate that your strategic approach is going to be one similar to that consistently used in sports, gaming, and life. Let's take a look at competitive cycling. It's a perfect analogy for the business world. Cycling races usually go on for weeks. There are many riders formed into small teams. The task is often grueling. The Tour de France is over 3,300 kilometers and rode over 21 days. Cyclists individually train, but they can only get out ahead if they work together as a team. Eventually, one cyclist leaves the pack behind and breaks away, a sprinter who differentiates himself from the others and ultimately is declared the winner, taking the trophy home for the team. Have you ever known a successful athlete who didn't credit his team after a big win? So here you are. You're a cyclist. Your new department is your four-man team, and the race is the achievement of your company's annual performance goals. You can be successful together and win. So here we go. Let's get ready. In your first 100 days, you will need to move through a rapid learning curve. I suggest buying a notebook for your first 90 days. You can keep track of everything you have learned and write out your game plan for the following week. What other information do you still need to know? In the last 10 days, use it as a review period. Tell yourself it is your first semester at work and study for your probation period. Treat it as if it was any other college course. So how do you start your individual training? You're going to need to learn quickly about your new work environment and coworkers. Does the thought of meeting new people and unfamiliar surroundings make you feel a bit uneasy? Relax. If you have used any of the familiar social media sites like Twitter, Vimeo, Snapchat, Gmail, or Instagram, I suggest that you are already an expert networker, and you could use these skills to jumpstart the process of getting to know your company. You may have learned and heard that networking is a job in itself. So here are a few quick tips. If you aren't already on LinkedIn, join and create a profile right away. Your company will have a profile and you should follow it. Medium to large size companies will likely have a Twitter account too, so learn the handle. Assess your company's profile and scroll down to see who works at your company and begin to make connections and follow others. Thumb through the company's new releases on Twitter and understand what positive images the company wants to portray to the public. It will reveal a lot about their current strategy. But most importantly, one of the biggest transitions you will need to make is getting into the habit of frequently checking and responding to email. 90% of the information relayed to you from your boss, coworkers, human resources, and the IT department will come from email. And a rapid response is expected, especially if you have a desk job. Remember, your boss is assessing you, and he wants to know your adaptability and fit. Get into the habit of checking email 8 to 10 times per day. Outlook is the primary email tool in business. In Outlook, you can right-click on someone's name, and their location, reporting structure, and coworkers will often appear. Another great networking tool. Another valuable information source is your company's internal website. The company website is a wealth of information, including financial, procedural, policy, benefits, and the latest news. There'll be fun stuff too, about social events happening, or maybe the updated vacation schedule or other work perks. Now that you have some knowledge about your business, it is time to build a new social community. But starting a conversation can be a little awkward with people you don't know. So I suggest starting with an opener. Ask a social question. Where is their hometown? And what school do they attend? When the conversation turns back to business, I suggest remember the 4 P's: product, process, position, and people. You could ask your questions like, how is our product created? And how does it get to market? Who ultimately is responsible for selling or distributing our product? How does business get done? For example, how are personal expenses approved and paid? Or how are sales goals created and tracked? You will find there are hundreds of processes at your company, and there may even be a special black belt department who works on improving process. Your close coworkers can help you understand how your job position flows. What is their opinion of your number 1 priority? How often will you be asked to perform extra tasks? And when there is a lull, what do you do to fill your time? Remember, you're expected to work 8 hours a day, and that doesn't include commute time or lunch. And finally, when meeting people, feel free to ask questions about what they do. Keep it conversational. What department do they work in and who they report to? And end the conversation with a warm and friendly closer. It could be very simple. Thank you. Hope to see you again soon. Now let's transition from individual prep to teamwork. Learn how to working as a team is essential. In cycling, each player has a role in this quad. This picture is an example of drafting. The team uses aerodynamics. Cyclists take turns as lead cyclists to bear the force of the wind. The second cycler and others have a chance to rest, and they focus on precision and communication. Everybody knows their role that will help the team accomplish their goal and to position their leader, the sprinter, for the last leg of the race. The business world, it may not be as exhilarating, but the team will need to gel nevertheless and work very closely. Each of your coworkers will have their own strengths and weaknesses, and together you must figure it out fast. Each time a new hire comes on board, the dynamic will change. I suggest you prepare by doing an online traits assessment to help you understand your strengths. Some people will be emotional and excited and passionate, while others will simply want to get the job done. Some coworkers will be terrific at research and bring quality to the product, while others will keep the team working together. Who will play the role of negotiator? Who is organized? Who will want to present? Who will keep the team on pace to meet deadlines? And who will validate the work and make sure it is accurate? Who will harmonize the group and act as mediator when there's a dispute, helping everyone to reach consensus about the strategy? You can assess the team for their strengths and take on roles where you excel and others struggle. So instead of searching for others like you at work, identify different personal traits that will offset your weaknesses and resume the role you are naturally good at and let others resume theirs. It's like the Avengers. Everyone has a unique ability. So far, we have reviewed expanding your knowledge base, connecting to coworkers, strategizing on roles each member plays on a team. But let's talk about how to break away. After all, no one wants to stay in their entry-level job, but wants to acquire more benefits and earn a higher pay. So you will need to differentiate yourself as a leader within your team. Even as a team player, you could still bring something extra to your game. You may want to be considered a specialized individual contributor with a key talent or a manager of others. Be humble, be friendly, and aspire to be better. You have a deliverable. Perhaps it is a work for a client or a new design. What will impress the boss? It's not just the content, but the professionalism in your delivery and your ability to be on time and to meet deadlines. Your work product needs to be of high quality. It is your testimony to professionalism. It is also important to be on time with that product and that it meets expectations. So, check in along the way with your boss. Communicate your intent for when and how you will get the work done. Provide a progress report via email with a report outline. Confirm when the deadline is and understand, is this a hard deadline or is there a little bit of flexibility if you need more time? And when you deliver the final report, send it the day before so your boss has a chance to review it and give him or her a chance to make suggestions. Deliver the revised report on the date agreed upon. So the next step to breaking away is having a plan and putting it in motion. Formally, this could take place by setting yourself short and long-term goals. Okay, wait a minute. Should my boss be telling me what is expected? How could I set my own goals? Goal setting may be a company requirement, but it is also a tool for a personal career strategy. However, one of the biggest obstacles to your success is likely going to be deficiencies in your company or your boss's ability to set challenging goals that support your development. Your boss will be totally impressed and relieved if you share in this process or even take control. It will show your maturity. You should suggest 5 goals for approval. The first 3 have a direct link to the benefit to your company. Maintain the contributor mentality. After all, that is why they fill the job opening and give you that big fat paycheck. It should improve something such as profitability, efficiency, or provide governance and ultimately make your company more successful. The 4th goal should be developmental. You are a new employee and have a lot to learn. So create a goal that centers around training, polishing a skill, or learning more about your industry. This will help to show your boss that you are teachable and want to adopt a continuous learning mentality. Perhaps you could register for a webinar or study for industry certification. Goal 5 should be constructed to show that you want to get ahead and be promoted. You don't desire to stay in an entry-level position forever. One example may be to take over a task that your boss typically performs. Perhaps he develops the agenda for the monthly sales meeting, or she prepares the quarterly budget. Ask how you could simplify his or her day. He will be glad to delegate to you and excited that you aspire to a higher level. So here we are. We're near the end of the race. It is the end of a business year or the end of your first year of work. Your review period will come up quickly. What will it take for you to feel successful? As I have surveyed business colleagues, I asked which of these traits were the most influential in an evaluation. I find that the measure of success is not solely based on the quality of the work product, but it takes in other demonstrated traits, such as your ability to please the customer, your professionalism, your ability to collaborate with others, and even if you are a friendly person and positive when you come into work each morning. Your grades report will be a formal performance review and a written record of your performance that is kept by human resources. Many of the traits that demonstrate your performance or fit will be mentioned, such as how well you work with a team, your enthusiasm for developing new skills, and the quality and accuracy of your work, and even if you are a positive influence on others. Grades are not A through E, but maybe a 1 to 5 numbering system, or letters such as does not meet expectations, DNM, ME, met expectations, or EE, exceeded expectations. Your raise will be based on the composite grade. It's similar to a GPA. So I know this has been a lot of information behind these 3 tips, a lot of information to digest. But remember, you just need to start. Get that notebook and say, what could I do today? Today and every morning. Tell yourself you will connect and learn and keep up a continuous learning mentality. You will value your team, analyze them, and be an effective contributor according to your own strengths. You will produce quality work that is on time. You'll develop beneficial goals for you and for your company. And ask for feedback and receive it well. It may not always be the things you want to hear, but it is the things you need to hear. In business, you'll have to find friends you could confide in. A mentorship network is key, and you could develop a network of support internally or through a trade organization or your alumni office. I'd also like to introduce you to some friends that you could read about in my book. Meet Devin, he's an accounting major, Jake, a financial analyst, Kelsey, a marketing major, and Donna, an engineer. As you follow along, you'll discover that they encounter typical work situations. They make mistakes, they realize the lesson that needed to be learned, and they take corrective measures. You will find out what to do if you accidentally divulge confidential information or have a hard time expanding your friends group. Maybe you've spoken out of turn about a coworker and now you regret it. Find out how to recover from this. Or what happens if you are never called on to present and you would like to have that spotlight. I'll also introduce a chapter to help you assess whether this company is the right fit for you. Or maybe it's time to move on and to try again. You could find more information at the helpsomeone.com link. I hope you have found a few nuggets of information to take to work with you today, and I invite you to keep in touch with me. Here are some of my social media websites where you can continue to follow me. But most importantly, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me at jmahalik@helpsomeone.com. I'm happy to provide you a quick answer back. And that's the end of today's presentation. Why don't we open it up for some questions?
Joyce, thank you very much. This is the kind of information that definitely is not shared in college. We definitely don't learn how to work with colleagues in a business environment, nor how to report to a boss. And so many first out of the box grads starting a job are very confused by their relationship with those they report to, right? Keep in mind, we end up leaving college, leaving the professors who encourage us to, in a very academic environment, communicate with them in a different manner that our bosses will certainly require us. So this is an amazing, valuable information. And I was very surprised about what's the most important thing to business leaders. You shared a slide previously that identified what is the boss? What do managers really want? Can you dig into that a little bit deeper and kind of reinforce what we should be thinking about as the priority? Because many times our priority is not our bosses.
That's a great question. And, you know, you hit a couple major points. We're so used to sort of the social community that we have when we leave college. We've been there 4 or 5 years and we've made great friends. But now we're thrust into a new world where we know no one and we have to quickly adapt. So all bosses understand this. They understand that getting to know a new social community and focusing on fit is probably one of the first things that one needs to do in your first year experience in the work surroundings. So the boss is looking for things that are all of the soft skills. You know, do you fit in? Are you friendly? If something goes wrong, how well do you recover? When you come into a meeting, are you a contributor in that meeting? And also, have you done your homework? He doesn't have the time for you to rely solely on him for information. But if you've taken the effort to seek out information from others, as well as things like your company website, then it relieves some of the burden from him, and your interaction between boss and employee will be stronger.
I like your suggestion also that if you've got a project to do and a report to hand in or just some kind of daily responsibility, make sure the boss doesn't ask for that. And if you can, turn it in early. Can you reinforce how important that is?
Right. You know, we often receive an outline in our college courses, and it's understood sort of what to expect when you have to write a paper. The college professor will go over that for weeks before it's due. But in the workplace, it's a little bit different. The boss will give you just a few ideas, and then he's off and running to the next meeting. And your interpretation of it may be wrong along the way. So it's important to check in to make sure that he has that outline or he has the opportunity to see the draft. He's probably relying on your work product to use in his own day-to-day requirements. And if you end up at the last minute providing with something that really wasn't helpful, then it's not going to reflect well for you. So although it needs to be an independent exercise, you still want to make sure that you have at least 3 or 4 touch points that will make sure that you're on track.
Good advice. Now, you touched on connecting with your colleagues and new individuals who either are in your department, other departments. How careful do you have to be with who you connect with at the water cooler? Are there some people who are perhaps maybe deemed by corporate to be those less likely to be promoted because of their attitudes or lack of work ethics or something like that? How do you as a new employee identify the right people to connect with?
You know, that's a great question, and it is so hard to navigate when you first get to work. You know, is it appropriate, for example, to speak to a peer of my boss, or maybe the executive vice president, or you know, should I keep it at hello or strike up a conversation? And I would suggest that you err on the friendly side. Say, be willing to talk with anyone, whether it be from the maintenance supervisor to administrative assistant to a manager and all the way up to the president of your company. So if you keep the conversation light and you limit it to 1 or 2 questions, look them in the eye, offer a handshake, you can't go wrong. People, if you start to get a little bit too personal, you'll see the body language as people tend to shy away and maybe excuse themselves. Hey, I've got to run to a meeting and so forth. So they'll communicate to you what the limits are. But don't be afraid to speak to anyone. After you've been there for about 3 months or 6 months, you'll start to get the feel for it and what the work culture is.
Makes a good deal of sense. Can you explain to us or amplify a little bit on how we need to be more flexible and change our behaviors as we leave that collegiate college environment to a corporate culture that's going to be completely different?
Right. I believe one of the hardest parts is for people to adapt to is perhaps a new dress code and waking up really early. Most people require a start anywhere between 7:30 and 9 a.m. So if you're used to taking evening classes or afternoon classes, you're going to need to be at work on time, and you'll have to plan for your commute time along with the appropriate starting time. So get there early. Look around when you get there the first couple of days. Follow the dress code. And be prepared for the long haul. I hate to tell you, but you're probably going to be working for the next 50 years. So the sooner you could sort of get into a new work culture and a new environment, adapt some good habits, then it's just going to be easier for you to adapt and to be successful and focus instead on the work at hand instead of maybe some of the transition points. Dive right in.
Great advice. Now, you've coached a lot of first year graduates and kind of helped them navigate into their first year of professional working experience. What are the common mistakes you see graduates making, and what can we do to prevent making the same kind of mistake?
I think I have that my new employees fairly consistently don't understand that they don't get any vacation days over the first, say, 90 days and very little in the year. So a common mistake is to not take some time off before you begin work. If there's something you just want to do, you want to take a trip to Europe, you just need a week off to spend time with family and friends, do that before you set your start date, because you need to be prepared to be on the clock and at the desk every day. The second one is communication through email, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to hit upon it today within this presentation, is that often people think, oh, I'll get back to that later, or they'll observe and read the email coming in, but they won't respond to it. And people won't know if you read it unless you actually produce a follow-up response. So get in the habit of email also being a conversation, not just verbal conversations.
Excellent. You know, we're almost out of time. Time goes so fast when you're sharing great information. In the final couple minutes that we have, Joyce, can you give us some marching orders? Tell us, what should we be doing starting tomorrow morning to adopt some of the ideas that you shared with us today?
Yes, even if you haven't started work yet, go over to the company's website or look up their Instagram or their Twitter handles and start to gain some research about the company. Look at what their competitors are and what other people are doing so that it gives you some context to how your company handles product distribution or sales and maybe how big they are compared to others. So do as much research as you can if possible and begin connecting with others, because as soon as you make those connections, you're going to feel more comfortable at work.